YouTube, friends and family, what's good? Ice is out, spring's here, it's beautiful outside. Been practicing with the quad, probably gonna go do some more of that later. It's a nice day today. Got the day off. Amy's at work, but when she gets out, I got a video for you guys I wanted to drop. Back on January 24th in 1963, a United States Air Force Boeing B-52C Stratofortress crashed on Elephant Mountain over here in Greenville and in Piscataquis County, and we can get there. Well, I've been up there a couple of times, and I've got to tell you, the vibe up there is it's pretty haunting and pretty eerie. But you know, once Amy gets out of work, we're gonna jump in the truck and head her on up. So if you guys are interested, stick around. On January 23rd, 1963, a United States Air Force Boeing B-52C Stratofortress with 9 crew members on board lost its vertical stabilizer due to buffeting stresses during turbulence at low altitude and crashed on Elephant Mountain in Piscataquis County, Maine, in the United States, 6 miles from Greenville. The pilot and the navigator survived the accident. This training mission was called a terrain avoidance flight to practice techniques to penetrate advanced capability radar, undetected by Soviet air defense during the Cold War. The crew, consisting of 2 99th Bombardment Wing Standardization Division crews based at Westover Air Force Base out of Massachusetts, and 2 instructors from the 39th Bombardment Squadron out of Walker Air Force Base, New Mexico, was briefed for 6 hours the day before the accident. They had the choice of flying over either the Carolinas or Maine. The B-52C departed Westover AFB at 12:11 p.m. on Thursday, the 24th of January, 1963, and was scheduled to return to Westover at 5:30 p.m. After crossing Traveler Mountain, the aircraft was supposed to climb back to altitude over the Holton VOR station. 1 hour later, around 2:30 p.m., the Stratofortress crossed the Princeton VOR, descending to 500 feet, and started its simulation of penetrating enemy airspace at low altitude with an airspeed of 280 knots. That's 320 miles per hour. The outside temperature was minus 14 degrees Fahrenheit with winds gusting to 40 knots. That's around 46 miles per hour. And there was 5 feet of snow on the ground. Approximately 22 minutes later, just after passing Brownville Junction in the center of Maine, the aircraft encountered turbulence. When the pilot and crew commander, Westover's most senior standardization instructor pilot, started to climb above it, the vertical stabilizer came off the plane with a loud noise sounding like an explosion. Having suffered severe damage, the B-52C went into a 40-degree right turn with the nose pointed downward. The pilot gave the order to abandon the aircraft when he could not level it. Only the upper flight deck crew members of the B-52C have ejection seats that eject them upwards. The seats of the pilot, co-pilot, and electronic warfare officer, a navigator also trained in electronic warfare, function at any altitude as long as the airspeed is at least 90 knots, which is 100 miles per hour, which is the minimum required to inflate their blast-propelled parachutes. The lower deck crew members eject on a downward track. Hence, the navigator and radar navigator cannot safely eject at altitudes less than 200 feet. They must use parachutes and either jump out of the navigator's hatch after the navigators have ejected or drop out of the aircraft's door. The tail gunner has his own unique escape option. He can sever the tail gun and jump out the resulting hole in the rear. The co-pilot suffered fatal injuries, striking a tree 1 mile away from the main crash site. The pilot landed in a tree 30 feet above the ground. He survived the night with temperatures reaching almost 30 degrees below zero in his survival kit sleeping bag atop his life raft. The navigator's parachute did not deploy upon ejection. He impacted the snow-covered ground before separating from his ejection seat about 2,000 feet from the wreckage, with an impact estimated at 16 times the force of gravity. He suffered a fractured skull and 3 broken ribs. The force bent his ejection seat and he could not get his survival kit out. He survived the night by wrapping himself in a parachute. A grader operator on a remote woods road witnessed the final turn of the Stratofortress and saw a black smoke cloud after impact. 80 rescuers from the Maine State Police, the Maine Inland Fish and Game Department, the Civil Air Patrol, as well as Air Force units from Dow Air Force Base in Bangor, Maine, along with others from New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and other volunteers went to work. Search aircraft were on the scene, but they searched too far south and east to locate the wreckage before nightfall. After the crash site was located the next day, Scott Paper Company dispatched plows from Greenville to clear 10 miles of road of snowdrifts up to 15 feet deep. The rescuers had to use snowshoes, dog sleds, and snowmobiles to cover the remaining mile to the crash site. At 11 a.m., the 2 survivors were airlifted to a hospital by a helicopter. Of the 2 survivors, the pilot returned to active duty after spending 3 months in the hospital, and the navigator, whose feet were frostbitten, contracted double pneumonia, became unconscious for 5 days, and his leg had to be amputated because frostbite and gangrene had set in. Most of the remains of the 53-0406 are still at the crash site, owned by Plum Creek Timber Company. They improved the foot trail so visitors can view the wreckage. Although the site has signs posted asking viewers to show due respect while there, it has been vandalized with names carved in the wreckage or marked with permanent marker. Well, there you have it, folks. The B-52 crash site, and about 6 to 10 miles outside of Greenville. It seems like it's a little bit further because you're on all dirt, but you know, me and Amy were just talking about it, and you kind of it's not really an eerie feeling that you get. I almost get a feeling of like the souls that passed here are happy that you're here. You know, remembering them. I mean, these guys were vets, you know, Army, Navy, probably Air Force veterans or whatever, just out doing their job, and unfortunately the Mother Nature got them. And again, like I said, I believe at my intro, 2 of them lived. I believe there were 7 passengers, 2 of them lived, and another one they found about a mile away from all of this wreckage, right up here, and something to do with his ejection seat or something, I'm not sure. You can go on and Google Greenville, Maine B-52 crash site and read all about it, and you know, it's an eyesore, but you know, my heart goes out to these guys for serving our country and keeping us safe. So you know, it is what it is. But it's sacred ground, just like that sign says back there, and this one too. It says, "You are now entering sacred ground. Please treat it as such." Which is true. You know, I'd probably get an eerier feeling if we came up in here at night. Anyways, we're out back to the road, so hey, thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe, my friends.